Avery, I want to know what you are excited about. What predictions do you have for next year? What format do you want to do? Do you want to do like 1 and 1, or do you want to do like you give me 3 and I'll give you my 3?
Let's do 3 and 3. You want to start?
All right, I'm going to start. I'm going to pause after each one. Give me your reactions. My first prediction is, and this one relates to crypto because, our roots lie in there for this podcast. But post SBF, not only did it, create a large sort of stain on our industry, and we've been kind of working very slowly to get back to something that sort of people are comfortable going with. But SBF was throwing tons of money around Washington. And so you saw a softening of how regulators and politicians were looking at crypto because he was lobbying and spending, I think it was almost $100 million on this. When he got arrested and FTX blew up, all that money dried up. And so you started to see the politicians, in addition to the brand conversation around FTX, start to pull away from crypto as much as possible. I've been paying attention where it's both with Brian R. Armstrong and Stand With Crypto that we just did an event with, as well as Brad Carlinghouse at Ripple just announced a big lobbying initiative that's about $70 million. I think we're going to see that hole be closed in the lobbying initiatives that will go out to Washington, which I think then starts to translate into next year, a lot of politicians opening back up to the concept of crypto, and especially if these Bitcoin ETFs and ETH ETFs get approved. I think we're going to see Washington be much more supportive than they've been in 2024, despite what like Liz Warren says. I think there's going to be a lot more friendliness because they're going to know, just frankly, there's a lot of money powering the system now. That's my first.
I love that prediction. I'm into that.
All right. Number 2, this is not going to be a surprise because we've talked about it multiple times in the show, but I keep asking different folks in the industry. But the idea of game engine powered immersive shopping, I think, is going to really start finding its place in 2024. I keep thinking about it, whether or not it is a Roblox or Fortnite partnering with a Shopify or they are replacing Shopify. The idea is not about buying digital assets. It's actually about buying physical assets, but that the environments you're buying them are going to be powered by game engines. I think it sort of reminds me of a little bit the live shopping that happens in Asia, which people are very comfortable making quick
like
purchases.
Flip is
Exactly.
super
Like
popular
Flip.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that like new shopping paradigms, but that we have a group of people who were raised on video games more than they were raised on traditional retail or traditional media are going to want experiences to be more immersive when they go shopping.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Number 3, I had an amazing conversation yesterday with friends Liz Hagelthorne and Kelly Nyland, who are both really on the edges of AI and custom GPT creation. And it really opened my eyes to some stuff. And I'm going to kind of think, my prediction is one which I think probably makes sense, but I don't think people are talking about it enough, which is these LLMs keep getting wider and wider and sucking more and more information, which I believe is diluting their accuracy. And then in addition, we've seen OpenAI and a bunch of others like start to say, oh, you can't do all of these things because we don't want to deal with copyright infringement of a Dali image that has David Bowie in it, right? So we're just not going to make it for you. So I think that we're going to see, instead of bigger and wider LLMs, very specific use case LLMs that are going to really focus on what's the one thing that this LLM can do really, really well, whether that's image generation, whether that's creating tweets, that, it's going to be trained on data sets that we control and we own, and that we're really excluding as much as possible so it can be a really efficient model and agent for us in what we do. And then my second piece of that, again, inspired by the conversation I was having yesterday, was I think that also then starts to lead us to the idea that each of us, in essence, has a GPT that at some point we could license out, right? And the idea that, instead of like Meta or Twitter holding all of our data and they're the ones who have it, we're actually just giving them access to an API key that we can then cut off when we decide not to. And they have to hit it in order to get our information, which is maybe not as relevant for me or maybe even for you, but might be really relevant to someone like Gary, right? Or a celebrity who that their feed becomes really valuable. And so the idea that, I kind of look at it almost like the Netflix approach, where it's like Netflix pays for content to be on its platform and that's how it gets traffic. Right now, we're actually doing the reverse, where we're almost like we're paying with attention and time to build someone else's platform. Could there be a personal GPT that really allows you or anyone to sort of access that, and that's how creators get monetized?
I agree with the first part, 'cause, like, we're in that right now. Like, we've already seen sort of the multimodal generative AI tools like actually have like less efficiency than they used to in certain cases, and we've already gone in this like route of very specific custom models. like more like a specialist versus a generalist sort of situation. So I
Mhm.
agree with part one. Part two, everyone is looking of how they're going to make a buck from all of
Mhm.
these tools. And I'm not sure that's going to happen next year. Everybody's like toying around and playing around with it. I think there is a lot of value, but for a lot of these IP owners, brands, celebrities, like it's very hard to train it to the place where you can like really trust it because it needs such vast amounts of data. And also it's very hard to, there's certain things that are sensitive that people would want out of it. And I don't think we're going to be there in a year. We're trying to figure this out right now. And I think it's a bigger problem than it's a bigger challenge than people realize.
Okay, you're right. I should have caveated that. I think we're going to see the beginnings of that
The
start to take
beginnings. Okay.
form because I agree. I think it's probably more of a 3 to 5 year, but I could see down the road where really we're giving people license to our data, which could be an advertiser who wants to advertise to us, or it could be someone who wants to utilize our visual style on an on Instagram like photos.
Yeah, but your visual style, like in what year and like what genre? What about if you did a doodle that was inappropriate once? It's I think that's a
Agreed.
little bit of like what we're figuring out right now. So I'll give three of my predictions. And I remain absurdly bullish on crypto in the long term. And I think that we're actually going to see crypto have like a breakthrough consumer use case in a country outside of the US. I think
Mm,
with just a regulatory environment in the US right now, I don't see that in the immediate cards here, but I think maybe it's a smaller country, it's an emerging market. It's like, oh wow, they actually found a way to make this like useful and maybe an authorized form of currency. There was a little bit of that going on in Latin America in the last few years, and that hasn't shaken out very well. But I think that we are going to see like a real like non-sketchy use case for crypto in a smaller emerging market. That's prediction one.
I
So
love
I'll
it.
match you on
Fantastic.
starting with crypto.
Yeah.
The second thing, and I know I just talked about this, is I think that events and experiences are going to actually be more and more valuable
Mm,
because everyone is so saturated with like digital everything. I think that's why we're going to see tickets to games get more expensive and sponsorships get more valuable because one, being there in person, but also the authenticity of what you can capture on social. Like at Vayner, we've talked a lot about like events as a content engine and generator. And so, what do you think about that one, Sam?
I mean, I love that, and I come out of the experiential world, so I support it. My question, actually, back to you though, is is that I mean, events are expensive. It's the one problem with it is like, if you're going to show up at South by and CES and Art Basel and the Oscars and this and that, and you're spending hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars every time, you have to be a big brand to play that game. Smaller brands might have more challenge. So my question for you is actually more something we've also talked about: is do you start to see more eventing happening in immersive worlds?
I think it's just as expensive to event in an immersive world,
Or maybe you
is
build
the
once and
reality.
then
I got
you know,
and,
yeah.
and scale it. I think that we will see that, and I think that we'll also see a lot of like, great, meet me at this place at this time, meet me at these coordinates for this concert, for this digital meetup. Digital meetups, I could see like getting more and more popular, and having brands like intentionally drive people to places at certain times. So I could get
Mm.
behind that, and I also think brands like you don't always have to be a big brand and do something big and expensive. It could be doing like differentiated events at smaller places that are outside of like the conference circuit. That's a little preview of what our VaynerX event strategy is going to be next year.
I love it.
Less
I love it. I'm a
conferences and
big
more sort
supporter.
of
Yeah.
ownable, but cool experiences that you're not expecting.
Amazing.
And then my third prediction is I think this 2024 will be the year where like AI actually starts to like materially change the world of marketing. I think we'll see from a production standpoint first, like actual changes get made in terms of, the basic things like asset resizing and localization. We've been getting our hands in it the last year and a half, and I've been actually really surprised with how quickly large Fortune 100 advertisers are able to like accept and adopt in this world. And I think this will be a year where like AI really does start to dramatically change the way that we, go to market with communication messages and ads and campaigns and all of that fun stuff. So I'm excited for that, and I think it'll be a new world and new frontier for all of us to explore.
Let me ask you, I think that's great, and I totally agree, and I think it's like spot on. You talk about it, and we all talk about it. I think for like the productivity hack is the first one. I keep
Yeah.
thinking about things like programmatic and that programmatic advertising. All the people who are the gurus of programmatic are going to be out of jobs in a couple of years.
Well,
That
Sam, my thoughts on programmatic. I worked at DoubleClick, and I think there's so many middlemen between the publisher and the advertiser, let alone the consumer, um, that I think that industry is ripe for transparency and disruption. And I think that AI might expose some of that, which many people, including a lot of very seasoned media professionals, just either turn a blind eye to or don't see.
No, agreed, and that's what I'm wondering if, like, productivity first, 'cause I totally get it. The resizing, the changing language, and, the even frankly,
But that could
ABC.
be, 8 figures per year for like
Oh,
a
for
lot of
sure.
brands. It's a lot of
No, for
money.
sure. Yeah, but that's where I look at then in the same way that I look at, like, I think stock trading is gonna go through an
Yes.
unbelievable change in the next couple of years because everyone's gonna have a really intelligent agent based on parameters you wanna set. That I think the
Mhm.
programmatic and that whole idea of media buys, I think is gonna drastically change with AI.
I think so. I think it already has. Like, even if you look at the interfaces for a Google Ads or Meta, like they're really doing a lot of that optimization themselves and like instructing, media buyers, like, okay, great, like it will be more effective if you do RP Max. That's Google's product for this. Instead
Right.
of trying to like select your placements and whatnot. So that already has been happening, and AI will probably continue to accelerate that.
Mhm.
I think on the production side, though, there's quite a bit of disruption that could happen there, that'll ultimately, hopefully, allow all of those production folks an opportunity to do things that are more creative, more fun, and allow clients to have their dollars work like harder,
Mm,
to things that ultimately like drive because everyone needs the right sizes of ads. That is a real need. But I don't know if you need a real human to do that resizing.
right. Avery, let's get to our guest, Ivan from Puma. But first, thank you so much. This has been an incredible prediction show. I think we've not done one since our first one was like
Yeah,
number
it's been
4.
too long.
But really excited to see and hold ourselves accountable to this next year. We'll take a look at it.